Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Heather Sells. Today, the Senate passes a major bill protecting same-sex marriage.
The bill would ensure that same-sex marriages are enshrined in federal law, with supporters cheering and critics saying it threatens both religious liberty in America and traditional values.
You know, as Christians, we believe that the family and the marriage are the bedrock of a strong society. It's heartbreaking to see so many lawmakers agree and concur that that traditional view of marriage and family has no place in U.S. policy.
We'll look at the concerns about the potential impact on faith-based groups as well as believers in business. Congress moving quickly to try to avoid a railroad strike, as experts have warned of the crippling impact it could have on the economy.
I really believe that they're going to have a strike, and once the government steps in and shuts down the strike, I believe we're going to have a massive slowdown. And it's going to cost the economy about $3 billion a day for every day that there's a strike or a slowdown.
A deadly danger at the southern border as the drug fentanyl is pouring into the U.S. The Drug Enforcement Agency says China is shipping it to Mexico, where it's manufactured and smuggled over the border.
Chinese criminals are exporting these chemicals into Mexico, so the Mexican cartels can then manufacture this lethal poison into counterfeit pills. The whole point behind it is to drive addiction, right, and also to make a profit.
We'll hear why officials call it the nation's single deadliest drug threat, and our Studio 5 conversation with legendary gospel singer CeCe Winans.
Somebody asked me about my retirement plan. I said, it is not working out the way I thought it was going to work out.
These stories and more today on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
And we begin in Washington, where the Senate has passed a bill protecting same-sex marriage. Senate Democrats moved quickly on the issue while the party still holds the majority in both chambers of Congress, and 12 Republicans joined them in voting for this bill. As Charlene Aaron shows us, some say the move could mean trouble for Christians in the marketplace.
The Respect for Marriage Act passed with bipartisan support in the Senate. While it doesn't force churches to perform or host same-sex ceremonies, religious freedom advocates say it will target faith-based organizations and individuals who refuse to serve gay couples due to their religious convictions.
There are 61, the nays are 36. The bill, as amended, has passed.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer hailed it as a victory for equality.
No matter who you are or who you love, you too deserve dignity and equal treatment under the law.
The legislation gives federal protection to same-sex marriage, ensuring that government officials must recognize those performed in other states. 12 Republicans voted for the bill, though most opposed it on religious freedom grounds.
What it really does is it silences any individual who may disagree and discourages any faith-based entity from cooperating with government. To say, if you want to be able to partner with the state in any area, you probably aren't welcome here because you don't share the same beliefs.
While the bill is supposed to protect nonprofits from losing their tax-exempt status, some senators wanted stronger language.
Our amendment actually includes the belief about marriage included into it to make it very, very clear that if you have a different belief about marriage, you won't lose your nonprofit status.
The Senate rejected 3 Republican amendments from Senators Mike Lee, Marco Rubio, and James Lankford. Senator Lankford also highlighted concerns for protecting Christians in the marketplace, like baker Jack Phillips, who's been sued several times for refusing to bake wedding cakes for same-sex couples and transgender people.
So their choice would be either not to provide those services or to abandon their faith.
Noel Garnier of National Religious Broadcasters says the measure not only threatens religious liberty, but also traditional values.
As Christians, we believe that the family and the marriage are the bedrock of a strong society. It's heartbreaking to see so many lawmakers agree and concur that that traditional view of marriage and family has no place in U.S. policy.
The bill now goes to the House early next week, where it is expected to pass. It will then head to President Biden, who says he will sign it into law. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
New Disney CEO Bob Iger says he wants to quiet down culture war controversies. Iger came out of retirement last week to take over his old role running the company, replacing Bob Chapek. According to video exclusively obtained by Christopher Rufo of the Manhattan Institute, Iger told Disney employees at a town hall meeting, "Do I like the company being embroiled in controversy? Of course not. It can be distracting and it can have a negative impact on the company. And the extent that I can work to quiet things down, I'm going to do that." But he didn't back away from including LGBT storylines in Disney movies and shows. One of the core values of our storytelling is inclusion and acceptance and tolerance, and we can't lose that. That news comes as Disney's latest animated film, Strange World, was a flop. It features a gay teen romance, and it is expected to lose at least $100 million. You can find out more about the movie and audience reviews criticizing it for its sexuality on CBNNews.com. Well, Congress is moving quickly to try to prevent a strike by U.S. railroad workers. The unions have threatened to strike if an agreement cannot be reached before a December 9th deadline. It would be the first such strike in 30 years, and it could cripple the supply chain. President Biden says a shutdown would, quote, devastate our economy. The House is expected to act today after the president asked lawmakers to step in. Brody Carter brings us this look at the economic impact that a strike could have.
More money isn't the goal of these union railway employees. They're fighting for paid medical leave and more time to spend with family. Failure to strike a deal likely means more than just delayed holiday gifts.
If you think about what travels on rail, it actually becomes a national security issue.
From ethanol and natural gas to building materials and even chemicals that purify your drinking water, travel by rail. It could all come to a screeching halt if a deal is not reached.
Sick pay is not something that's negotiated in the agreements, and it's something that we've been trying to negotiate for several years. So when our guys call in sick or are unable to make it to work, they can and have been disciplined for doing such.
Union Division President Tony Cardwell represents some 23,000 workers in one of the three major unions looking for a new deal. They rejected a proposal from Labor Secretary Marty Walsh that would increase worker pay 24% over the next 5 years, add one personal day, and caps on health care costs.
Sick leave amounts to a whopping 1 cent on every dollar is what our estimates show of their profits. So we're talking a small fraction of money to improve membership's lives that the carriers are just unwilling to put forward. And once again, these are some of the most profitable companies in the country, and their profits have continued to grow. The carriers can do something very simple to resolve that issue, and that's give our members some paid sick time.
A September strike was averted after President Biden imposed a 60-day cooling-off period, pushing negotiations past the midterm elections.
The only reason why right now that we're not in a worse situation is that the recession going as it's going right now, our imports from China are down significantly, and the ports are less busy.
At this point, Congress could prevent a work stoppage or lockout through the Railway Labor Act, either imposing a deal or forcing workers to go back to work under the terms of the contract they just rejected.
I really believe that they're going to have a strike, and once the government steps in and shuts down the strike, I believe we're going to have a massive slowdown, and it's going to cost the economy about $3 billion a day for every day that there's a strike or a slowdown.
Nels says the problem could likely spill into the highway and longshoremen shipping unions.
I believe there's going to be a domino effect. I think that, one, if these other unions see the railroad unions get a 25% pay increase, they're all going to want a 25% pay increase. And you're seeing that in Europe right now. In Europe, there have been a ton of strikes at the ports, on the rail, as well as with truck drivers, also with taxi drivers. So I think we're going to see that. And then I think that if there is a strike, you're going to see the other unions strike with them in solidarity.
Threat of a strike comes as several railroads are seeing record profits. Unions argue those profits come at the expense of labor workers. If all 12 unions don't agree to the terms of a new contract, a full strike could happen in early December. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Coming up, not only are migrants pouring across the southern border, so are deadly drugs, including fentanyl. It's highly profitable and easy to smuggle. We'll take a look at this growing crisis when we come back. A coalition of conservative-led states is making a last-ditch effort to keep a Trump-era public health rule that allows some migrants to be turned away at the southern border. If that policy ends as expected next month, it could allow millions more to flood into the country, along with deadly drugs like fentanyl. Law enforcement is reporting a 4,000% increase in fentanyl seizures recently along some parts of the border. As CBN's Tara Mergener explains, the powerful synthetic opioid is becoming a drug of choice for the cartels.
The Drug Enforcement Agency says most of the fentanyl coming into the U.S. is no longer being sent from China through the mail. Instead, China is sending it to Mexico, where it's manufactured in labs and smuggled over the border. Law enforcement officers point to the amount of fentanyl funneling across the border as the nation's single deadliest drug threat. Describe to me how it's getting in here.
Chinese criminals are exporting these chemicals into Mexico so the Mexican cartels can then distribute, manufacture this lethal poison into counterfeit pills. The whole point behind it is to drive addiction, right, and also to make a profit.
Sold as powder or pill, fentanyl is 100 times stronger than morphine, 50 times more potent than heroin, and cheaper to mass produce.
Fentanyl that's coming across our border in record numbers, surging 134% last year.
Even a tiny amount can be lethal.
We're losing 289 Americans a day. Every 5 minutes, a young kid is dying.
An estimated 100,000 plus in the U.S. died because of fentanyl during the pandemic alone. Numbers continue to soar.
It's been found in black market Adderall. It's been found in ecstasy pills. It's been found in cocaine, that people think that they're buying another drug and they're actually ingesting fentanyl.
DEA lab tests show that 60% of fentanyl-laced fake pills analyzed in 2022 contained a potentially fatal dose of the opioid.
Only take prescription pills that are prescribed to you personally and that come from a pharmacy.
Colorful fentanyl pills agents say are being used to target children are also popping up in one community after another.
Federal agents with an urgent warning to parents about rainbow fentanyl, pills the colors of candy.
Since August, officers have seized rainbow fentanyl across more than 24 states and counting. Critics of the Biden administration, including Texas Governor Greg Abbott, call the crisis a result of the president's refusal to secure the border.
They also sent this letter to President Biden as well as Vice President Harris, demanding that they classify Mexican drug cartels operating in Texas as terrorist organizations.
Would you say that there is any attempt by this administration to stop these drugs from pouring over the border?
Federal government needs to enact some policies. They need to put pressure on Mexico to go after these criminal organizations, to go after and to identify these chemical weapon labs that are being manufactured in Mexico that are distributing this drug at mass quantities.
Texas alone has seen more than 400 million doses of fentanyl seized since March of 2021.
It's not a coincidence. We have a border that's out of control, uncontrolled immigration, thousands and thousands of people every single day. It's not a coincidence that we have a fentanyl problem on top of that. Because it's the same people who are responsible for that illicit traffic in persons. Those are the same people that are producing fentanyl and sending it into the United States.
And according to the Justice Department, illegal immigrants arrested for drug smuggling are not deported, but remain in this country to be processed in our criminal justice system. In Washington, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Still ahead, our CBN Studio 5 conversation with legendary gospel singer CeCe Winans about her latest project and new book, both called Believe for It. We'll have that interview for you right after this. CeCe Winans is the most awarded gospel artist of our time. She is on a sold-out tour for her latest project called Believe for It. And she has written a new book with the same name. Ephraim Graham had the opportunity to speak with the wife, mother, grandmother, pastor, recording artist, and author.
I've got joy in the struggle. I've got peace in the storm. I've got strength in the battle. I don't fear anymore. I'm a child of heaven, and my hope is secure. I've got joy, 'cause I've got Jesus.
Of course, I don't know your life, but just from observation, reading your book, I see you and your husband plan to retire, but I kind of feel like you're busier now than you've ever been. Am I correct?
You are so correct. Bob, somebody asked me about my retirement plan. I said, it is not working out the way I thought it was going to work out.
Keep all of my burdens. Yeah, my debt has been paid.
Praise the Lord. God is good.
I will say, that said, it was beautiful to watch the last music video where we're seeing generations of your family.
He gave me beauty for ashes, turned my life around. He broke my chains and now I dance on solid ground.
How emotional was that for you?
It was incredible to show the faithfulness of God through family. And I believe it just touched a lot of families around the world. I think we forget, with all the stuff that is going on and the pain and the suffering that, you know, a lot of us have experienced in life, periods, but also definitely through these last few years. It was a great reminder that through it all, God has been faithful. You know, I still have an incredible husband after 38 years of marriage, and my daughter and her husband are doing well, and, you know, got a grandbaby, and now my son is getting married. I'm like, thank you, Jesus, I'm gonna get in the club.
We've heard that there is no way through.
So it was last October, or almost 2 years ago, October, you were recording Believe for It. And now we sit 2 years later, we are still talking about Believe for It. We are still playing.
You know, I have to stop and think about that. I'm like, now wait a minute, when did we do the record? It's like, oh my God, it's been 2 years. So that's kind of different, right?
Yeah.
Move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it.
And now a book.
Right.
Did you know going into this project how much God was going to work through it?
No. That was my prayer, because we did the project during the pandemic, and all the pain that was being experienced by everybody around us. I knew that it's never a time just to do music to me. But I knew that God didn't want me to just go in to say, oh, I did another record, you know? I was like, God, if you ever wanted to show your power through music, I need you to show it now, because people are contemplating on taking their lives. You know, we're isolated right now. People can't come to church. Please. And we had intercessors praying while we were recording the whole record. And when I heard the record back, I felt the presence of God, and I felt like he did more than what I asked him to do.
When there seems to be no way, we trust in you. God, you have the final say.
I'm excited about the book. I just pray that people will respond to the charge of pouring into the next generation, understanding that whoever you are, as a believer, you have something to offer. Your testimony, wisdom, to whoever's coming after you. You know, I'm here today because of those mothers who took out time to tell me, no, baby, sit down. That dress is too short.
Yes.
No, that ain't God. It's like, oh, okay. And I'm so grateful for that. And now I have to understand that that's who I am today. I'm the mother of the church now. I was like, when did that happen? But it happened. And we have to understand it so that we can pass the baton well. I'm grateful for every award. I'm grateful for everything that has happened throughout our career. But I always tell people that I never believed that God wanted me to save the world and lose my family. You know?
Yeah.
And so when all of that is over, to have a family that loves God and loves one another, to me is what life is all about.
God, we believe. God, we believe for it.
And also tonight on Studio 5, a look at the Christmas movie from Sight and Sound Films, I Heard the Bells, and an interview with music group Selah that's celebrating its 25-year anniversary with 2 new projects, including a new Christmas album. For those stories and more uplifting entertainment, be sure to catch Studio 5 tonight at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel or on the CBN News app. Coming up, Christmas is coming to Washington, D.C. with the lighting of the U.S. Capitol Christmas tree and Christmas music. We'll bring you that story when we come back. Stay with us. Christmas decorations have been going up in the nation's capital, with one of the most famous traditions being carried out last night, the lighting of the Capitol Christmas tree on the west lawn of the Capitol. It is a tradition that dates back to 1964. This year's decorated tree is a red spruce named Ruby. It stands nearly 80 feet tall, and it comes from the Pisgah National Forest in North Carolina. It was decorated with handmade ornaments from residents in the Tar Heel State, and there was music as well. The Washington Performing Arts children of the Gospel Singers sang, "It's the most wonderful time of the year" for the lighting ceremony.
It's the most wonderful time. It's the most wonderful time. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Of the year.
And that is it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. We hope that you will join us next time. Have a great day.